Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So inshallah, in this video, our group will present about the thought and approaches of Tajdid in religion by Sayyid Ahmad Khan. So as we know, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a prophet that sent to all nations in this world. This shows that the Sharia brought by him is broad, comprehensive, and appropriate in all places and times. But with the development of a time that is far from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then the religious that teachings conveyed by him have been ignored and misled by various factors, both external and internal. Moreover, countless problems and challenges of the Ummah arose as time progresses, either in terms of laws, thinkings, or practices that did not exist in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, one of the solutions to address it is through the approach of Tajdid, which is an effort to revive Islamic principles that have been forgotten or abandoned by Muslims in order to improve them for the better. So we should be noted that Tajdid does not mean add new Islamic doctrine or change fundamental principle such as Tawhid, but it does involve returning Islam to the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the first four caliphs by taking into realities and circumstances of the time. According to Sheikh Yusuf Al-Qaradawi, Tajdid is an endeavor to bring back what has been learned from Quran and Sunnah and things that are relevant to both sources. He also described Tajdid as an effort and attempt to restore something to its original state. So, one of the popular mujaddid in India is Sayyid Ahmad Khan, who has made contribution to Islamic modernity as a religious thinker that could be observed in his dynamic and constructive work, which has had a significant impact on modern Islam in general and Indian Islam in specific. The purpose of this study is to identify the thought and approaches of Sayyid Ahmad Khan in the Tajdid of religion, and also to analyze the effort of Tajdid approaches in religion by him. So here our research question. First, what is biography of Sayyid Ahmad Khan? Second, what is thought of Tajdid of religion by Sayyid Ahmad Khan? And lastly, how the effort of Tajdid approaches in religion by Sayyid Ahmad Khan. So for our research objective, first to identify the biography of Sayyid Ahmad Khan, second to analyze the thought of Tajdid of religion by Sayyid Ahmad Khan, and lastly to discuss the effort of Tajdid approaches in religion by Sayyid Ahmad Khan. In this study, we apply qualitative methods such as collecting data from the materials that guide this research, consisting of data collected via classified documents, books, articles, magazines, newspapers, journals, and theses. The information also was obtained from websites and authentic source. So qualitative research emphasizes on comprehending a research query as humanistic or idealistic approach. A qualitative method is applied to understand the belief and experience, attitude, behavior, and attractions of people. So that's all from me, and I will pass to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NATASHA binti Abdullah. My matrix number is 1191794. In my part, I will explain about the biography of Sayyid Ahmad Khan. According to NURUL IZZAH 2018, she states that the full name of Sayyid Ahmad Khan is Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan ibnu al-Muttaqi ibnu al-Hadi al-Hasani al-Dahlawi. He was born on 18 October 1817 in Delhi and died on 20 March 1898. Apart from being known as Sayyid Ahmad Khan, he was also known as Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan. He is a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad through blood ties from the descendants of Fatima Az-Zahra and Ali bin Abi Talib. From there, he was given the title of Sayyid. His ancestors came from the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, and because of political pressure from the Umayyads in Damascus, he moved to Persia. Eventually, he settled in India during the reign of Shah Jahan in the Mughal Empire. His grandfather was a palace official during the reign of Sultan Alamgir II. that named Sayyid Ahmad Hadi. Sayyid Ahmad Khan's education was first obtained at the Maktab, a traditional educational institution that teach religion. He also studied Arabic and Persian, also mathematics, mechanics, as well as history. At the age of 17, Sayyid Ahmad Khan got married, and a year later, he worked for the East India Company (EIC) as a law writer. As stated by Muslihin 2012, Sayyid Ahmad Khan's childhood has been through pleasure and sufficiency. But after his grandfather died, he wanted to move to Delhi so he can pay attention to his family's affairs. However, his family's wealth began to decline. Then, when his father died, the benefits of land tax allocated to him by the government began to diminish. He began the new life, and after 6 years as a writer, he was promoted as a munsid, a deputy judge in Fatehpur, India. He was continued his education in his hometown and associated a lot with the royal aristocrats such as Nawab Ahmad Baks and judge like Mahmud Khan. According to Bazmi Ansari 2001, Sayyid Ahmad Khan was influenced and inspiring by writings of Shah Wali Allah, Indian theologian and founder of modern Islamic reformist and modernist thoughts that emphasize a rational approach to Islam and social reforms in Muslim culture. Until his death, he still devoted his life to modernizing the life of Muslims in the Indian subcontinent. As mentioned by Rifai Shodiq Fatoni 2016, Ahmad Khan's significant political activity is his struggle to defend Muslims from British accusations after the uprising in 1857. He also tried to prevent violence at the risk of helping many British people from the massacre and assassinations efforts led by Nawab Mahmud Khan. Nawab was the leader of the anti-British insurgency at the time. In addition, he also convinced the British that Muslims did not play a major role in the uprising. He had explained and resolved that this revolt took place because the Indians thought the British want to convert their religion to Christianity. Apart from that, there are no representatives of Muslims and Hindus in the boards of representatives, resulting in no good relationship between them, and they do not know what the people of India want. The British considered Ahmad Khan to have done a lot for them and want to repay him. However, the gift of a piece of land confiscated from the Siamese given to him by the British was rejected, and he received only the title of Sir.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I'll be sharing with you guys about the definition or thought of Tajdid of religion by Sayyid Ahmad Khan. The Arabic word Tajdid means reform. In official Muslim discussion, the phrase refers to effort to reinvigorate religion and religious practice with a focus on rigorous obedience to Quranic prescription and Prophet Muhammad's precedence. The hadith of Rasulullah SAW, which says God will send to this ummah at the beginning of each century those who will renew their faith for him, adds to the strength of this term, and the people involved in these reform activities are called mujahid. A study by Amal Fatullah 2013 states that Sayyid Ahmad Khan was a well-known Indian modernization pioneer. He offered a stream of thinking that tried to unite Islamic teachings with Western science. Sayyid Ahmad Khan worked tirelessly to keep Muslim in line with Western civilization. He also had the chance to write a Quran tafsir which aimed to persuade Muslims that Islam is not incompatible with natural law. He further claimed that simply following the Quran is sufficient and that hadith is unnecessary in our life. To understand the Quran, Muslims do not need to rely on superstitious classical interpretations. Instead, they can use current science to interpret. Sayyid Ahmad Khan rejected the hadith of Rasulullah because it was not recorded during the Prophet's lifetime. but rather in the 2nd century of the Hijrah, when there was instability, political unrest and religious conflict. As a result, Sayyid Ahmad Khan wholly accept hadith that was in agreement with the text and the Quran as well as human reason, and did not contradict real historical fact. Ahmad Khan is stated to have disregarded the previous fuqaha and ijma''s individual opinions, and he did not acknowledge the ijma' consensus, despite the fact that it was formed among the companions. Because the current and prior condition were different, Ahmad Khan reasoned that the door to ijtihad was still open and that there was no need to follow previous jurists. Sayyid Ahmad Khan was a rationalist adherent who incorporated Western ideas into Islam. In this context, Jamaluddin al-Afghani, an Islamic scholar, has criticized Sayyid Ahmad Khan in his work. Jamaluddin highlighted the risk of the naturalist trend in society in his book. He also offered example of adherents of this sect being destroyed, such as the Greek for adapting the Epicure sect and the Egyptian for adapting the mystical sect. Sayyid Ahmad Khan's way of thinking, according to Abu al-Hasan al-Nadawi, was based on taqlid to Western civilization and its materialistic principle, combining all modern thinking to interpret the Quran with Western civilization's rejection of all things that cannot be proven by the senses, including the supernatural. A study by Ahmad 2015 stated that because of an event that occurred in 1857, Sayyid Ahmad Khan followed the Western style of thinking. On this year, there was an uprising owing to the riot among the Indian people, which included Muslims. He was impartial in this episode and also assisted the British government in quelling the uprising, stabilizing British control and reconciling the hostility between the Indian people and British rule. Sayyid Ahmad Khan was one of the opinion that neither side benefit from the rebellion. He went on to say that if this kept up, more Indians would be killed. The British finally believed and decided to make peace because of the nature of Sayyid Ahmad Khan, who unified the two sides. To further convince that Sayyid Ahmad Khan had good relation with the British, he created a paper containing reforms such as: first, the British were allowed to interfere in matters related to religion. The Christian religious education system is also given to Europeans who are cared for in Christian care centers. Schools were also reformed based on Western teaching and abolished the Islamic-based education system. 2. In matters of people representation, neither Muslim nor Indian are permitted to participate. After the uprising ended, the British was grateful to Sayyid Ahmad Khan, who had prevented both sides from attacking each other. As a result, the British developed friendly connection with him, and Sayyid Ahmad Khan took use of the chance to expand the way of Muslim of thought.
Chapter 4. The efforts of Tajdid approaches in religion by Sayyid Ahmad Khan. So the reform efforts of Tajdid approaches in religion by Sayyid Ahmad Khan developed the concept of religious modernism and community identity, which were focused on the educational aspect. So according to Gunawan 2005, in his article Sayyid Ahmad Khan's Reform Movement, which summarizes the modern aspirations and initiative he has mobilized in combating illiteracy and educating Muslims in India. So the first one is the establishment of the oligarch movement to mobilize the intellectual development and socio-moral reform of the Muslim community by establishing the Aligarh Scientific Society with Aligarh Muslim University, so AMU. From the Aligarh Muslim University, they established two, which is the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College in Aligarh, or in short we called MAOC, or known as Madrasat Al-Ulum Musalmanan, and the second one is the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental Education, or in short MAOE. So the MAOC is to expose Indian Muslim youth to the advocated patterns of Western education and how it capable of rivaling dominant Western influences. So this was in line with Sayyid Ahmad Khan idealistic intellectual aspiration, in which he viewed education is not merely as a means of earning a living, but rather develop thought and intellect. So to be honest, his thoughts are not in line with Islamic teachings, whereby he dispute religion in terms of education, because he said it may affect the advancement or the modernization. Okay, and then the second approaches Tajdid of Religion by Sayyid Ahmad Khan he is also publishing the periodical magazines named Tahzib al-Akhlaq and the newspaper named Aligarh Institute Gazette. This is as a platform to develop his thought. This is according to Parai 2012. So what is he delivered in this magazine? First, it embodies modern criticism and views and adoption of the liberty to adopt personal opinion in religious matters as against Taqlid, the blind adherence. Okay, second, it highlights Western philosophy and its modern idea in its quest to bring out reform and enlightenment. This is the acceptance of Western conception of conscience and nature. And then third, revival of doctrines of the Mu'tazilite school, which Mu'tazilite school are based on more to reasons rather than the literal meaning in the Quran. And then lastly, the re-establishment of pure Tawheed, unity of essence, attributes and worship in Sayyid's outlook. So from this outlook, we can see that the Sayyid condemned Taqlid and get rid of it. So which he believed Taqlid was to blame for Islam's downfall. And he more to ijtihad, the innovation, which is their interpretation in light of the changes time, is the requirement of the hour. So according to him, the Muslim could not progress without acquiring knowledge of modern sciences and knowledges. In fact, Islam does not reject 100% the modernization, but Islam also not accept 100% either. So, as a conclusion, Sayyid Ahmad Khan devoting his life to religious, to educational and social reform, but called for a bold new theology and reinterpretation of Islam to respond to modern changes. And he is also a modernist thinker who interpreted Islam in a rational and classified as a heretic or deviant, since he emphasized by bypassing the hadith, direct recalls of the Quran to the Quran and rejected it and rejected on rational basis, and the unseen things, the ghaibiyat, such as the heaven, the angels, the attributes of Allah. And then many scholars of Muslim believe that Sir Sayyid was not a keen religious thinker, nor perhaps primarily and deeply religious, but was led by the inner logic. So in precaution, one needs to refer to the Islamic authorities for guidance, because it might appear clean from the outward as response to Islam modern changes, but apparently against Islamic teachings. Thank you. That's all from us.